Hey kids, it's Old Rotten Lady here. Today we are building our very first home for the Build Newcrest Legacy Challenge. This home is not going to be a permanent fixture. It is really just the house that Angel and his family are going to live in while he achieves the rest of the goals for Generation 1 and before his home lot turns into the first community park for Newcrest. Because of that, I'm actually going to be prioritizing a little bit more storytelling than aesthetics for this particular build. You'll see that I had left all of my plants and sheltered area where the plants are over on the right hand side of the lot, and I mostly kept that in place because I just did want the house to be sort of over on the left side. So I took the tent and my table and my woodworking table and the haystacks and everything, and I put them in my household inventory. A little pro tip, I did the same thing, or I tried to do the same thing with the pea/woohoo bush, but that's not considered a piece of furniture. It's considered a piece of landscaping, and the best thing to do for those is just to kind of shove them off in a corner and then put them where you want them to be. Trying to put them into your household inventory basically sells them from inventory automatically, which of course is against the rules of the Build Newcrest Legacy Challenge. So I had to sort of repurchase the woohoo bush, and because when you sell an item, you sort of get less money back. You're selling it used basically, so you're getting less than the full value of the plant back. So I had to use the money cheat to get it back to zero as if I had never deleted it in the first place. But just a quick tip there, and then I think once we build the actual park that's going to be here, I'm probably just going to donate the bush to the community lot. Initially, I was thinking of doing some sort of log cabin or something that sort of looked like a frontier house, something very, very simple, something made out of wood. So when I built this, I had just gotten the Tiny Living stuff pack for The Sims 4, and this being our first house and the fact that we actually only had 10,000 simoleons to build it, we actually had about like 12,000 in the coffers in Angel's household funds, but I really only wanted to build about 10,000 or use 10,000 worth so that I could, have some extra money for whatever we needed to do to kind of move the storyline forward, have a baby, have a wedding, etc. So I didn't want to make it a tier 3 small home, which was 100 tiles. I kind of wanted to make it a little bit smaller, but I knew that having a micro home really wasn't going to mesh well, especially with the fact that, we wanted to make this house something that could be used by the family the entire time without really adding on. And that would include space for children as well. And I'm thinking maybe Angel's family could be a family of 4, and a family of 4 in a micro home in 32 tiles really doesn't seem like reasonable or realistic. So that's why I decided to try to go for a tiny home with 64 tiles, and then to make it pretty simplistic, right? Storytelling wise, could Angel feasibly build this simple structure all by himself? Now, when I'm recording this, the werewolves pack just came out, and the werewolves pack actually has like this amazing dilapidated brick wallpapers, wood windows that look old and used, and really kind of fit the aesthetic of what I was trying to go here for a house that one man built by himself. But we didn't have that, and I also didn't have the outdoor retreat, and I still don't have the outdoor retreat pack, which also has some things that would have fit kind of with that log cabin aesthetic. So I ended up just sort of using the Snowy Escape buy build items primarily, which had a lot of wood mountain cabin type look and feel, something that you'd find in a hot spring inn, a traditional ryokan maybe. So that's kind of more of the aesthetic of what we have. As you can see, I initially was trying to build a 2-story home, thinking maybe the top floor could be some sort of lofted area that I could make into the adult's bedroom, or maybe stick the kids in there when they were old enough to climb ladders. It wasn't really working for me, however, but it was just looking way, way too big. On this small lot, it didn't seem feasible that Angel would have been able to build a 2-story home by himself. So I did eventually actually scrap that idea. At first I was, building like a long hallway that looked odd. Then I tried to kind of like sort of hide a second floor with additional roofing, and that still looked a little odd. So now you'll see we gave up on like 2-floor cabin idea. I tried to make it work a couple of different ways. I started looking at pictures of frontier houses and they just look like these like long rectangles. So that is what we ended up doing. At first, I only laid down 63 tiles because that sort of is like this even number that I could make work. And I played around here and there with actually maxing it out to 64 tiles. It does sort of create this like 1 tile extra that has to either be subtracted or added on to this area. So I played around with that for a while, and I played around with the layout for a while, but it did end up being in the end just a very long skinny building. What you see now with these 2 rooms or 3 rooms that sort of decrease in width along the very long rectangular building is basically what we end up going with. I don't think I actually changed where these walls are moving forward. So now that we have the basic shape, I'm trying to figure out, this is an off-the-grid home with simple living. So I can't use electric lights. I have to use natural lights, which include candelabras, things that have candles, oil lamps, things like that. Ideally, when you're furnishing a building, you want to light your way and see what you're looking at. But unfortunately, I could only use natural light, which really gives off a very yellow sheen. So you'll see me here and there pop some furniture out into the world, into the broad daylight, so I can actually see what the colors are. So this is what we're talking about with the Snowy Escape wallpaper. I was trying a couple of different wooden siding wallpapers on the outside to see what looked the most appropriate and rustic. And I did end up just going with a wood paneling, which conceivably could look like it's made out of logs, but at least looks like it's made out of wood. And I am now changing the color of my columns on my little sheltered area, making sure that the roof matches. The 2 structures look like they were built by the same man. Just trying to find a roof trim that looks appropriate and looks good with the wood colors. Same thing with the windows, trying to find a wooden window that looks good, can be used in the rest of the house. I end up using not that many windows. I think you'll see me place one on this outside that just kind of faces this other corner. I may end up deleting that one if I remember correctly. There's really nothing to stare out outside that window. I'm also fencing off a porch. I'm leaving little gaps, and the reason why that is if I enclose that gap, then the game recognizes that as a room, and if it's a room, then it adds to the floor tiles that are counted towards the tiny living lot trait. I'd be maybe close to 100 if we had included those, and would even lose the small home bonus. So obviously the bonus of living in a small house, a tiny home, or a micro home is that you get certain percentage boosts on all of your skill gain and your relationship gain. Relationship gain, good and or bad. The skill gain would be really great because then that means that my gardening skill advances really fast, as well as the quality of the plants boost very fast, which would be ideal in trying to get 8 plants to perfect quality. You'll see here I'm trying to figure out this roof overhang on the patio. I do want this to be covered. I am fully aware that it's been raining a lot in my game, and also that winter is coming. So we want to have a space where we can do our woodworking outside, do our gardening outside, and not get soaked by the rain. You'll see me trying out a couple of different options for roofs here. Ultimately, what I wind up with isn't really super pretty, but it does get the job done. And honestly, the storytelling perspective, I am focusing on that a little bit more. And, having a little bit of extra overhang that is sheltered from the rain would probably be good, especially since Angel likes the outdoors so much. But it's really hard to enjoy the outdoors when it's snowing and raining. At least the patio area and the overhang on the roof will allow him to get outside, breathe some fresh air, and be slightly happier during the cold winter months. So I pick this rustic subflooring floor. There was a section of the video that I just realized was not being recorded. So during that gap, I put in all the floors and I selected the wallpaper that would go throughout the entire house. It's just this simple wood chair rail situation with sort of like an off-white coloring. Nothing too fancy. All of them are the same swatch every room. This bathroom, you will notice, is only 2x2, which is enough for a door to get inside, a toilet, and a bathtub. And you may be wondering, hey, where's the sink? There's going to be a sink in the kitchen. So I'm sort of expecting my Sims to use the bathroom and then go wash their hands outside. I know it's not the convenience of modern day living, but they're not living in a convenient society. And space is tight, just trying to make it work. So we have this very country-esque apron bib sink that we are trying to use in this kitchen. I really struggled with the layout of the kitchen, especially in this like narrow format. You'll eventually see I added additional tile to the front of the house that includes the kitchen to sort of fit the refrigerator in, but I'm trying to figure out how to fit a stove, a sink, and at least one counter for a prep station somewhere in this kitchen without a ton of space. So this is me adding the extra tile. Instead of 63 tiles for a tiny home, we can max out to the 64. I'm trying to figure really how to incorporate this into the design of the house. I tried to move the door and the window a couple of different times, and I think I eventually settled on putting the refrigerator in this corner so that I could then get a prep station, a sink, and then a refrigerator kind of along the same line at the front of the house. So that is, I think, the layout that we end up sticking with. And I realized that this corner without the candelabra is really, really dark, so I need to find an additional light. I think what I will be doing is the same thing as I did in the bathroom where space was tight, is to put up a shelf and then put an oil lamp on the shelf and sort of light up that corner. I was thinking of maybe going with the candelabra initially, but it did look like it might be a little too dangerous. So I was really trying to make a fireplace work in the kitchen/living room. Everything seemed just a little too big, but I did find a couple that were, 2 tiles wide, maybe not that thick. And I really like the idea, especially since we are off the grid. The fireplace is not only a natural source of light, but also a natural source of heat, which would really get my Sims through the winter months in this cold, drafty, frontier-esque designed house. I really tried to make it work, but I just could not figure out a way to get a kitchen table and a set of chairs, like at least 3 chairs, integrated into the design and accommodate the fireplace at the same time. I was super bummed about not being able to use it, but I did ultimately decide not to use a fireplace and instead prioritize a kitchen table. Going through my inventory, my household inventory, now you see I've found my woodworking table, placed that outside in the patio, and now turned my attention, because I got really frustrated with the inside, in terms of resituating my whole sheltered plant situation. What I really wanted to do is create like a very big roofed area where I could not only do my gardening and shelter my plants and cultivate those plants without getting poured rain on, but I also wanted a spot where I could do the selling and put the selling table underneath the roof as well and make him a little less miserable when he is trying to have a yard sale while it's raining. And I wanted to leave enough space for not only Angel to be sheltered by the rain, but also the other Sims that are coming to try to purchase something and keep them around the lot a little longer. I'm resituating all the rest of my crops that are not trees underneath the roofed area. And then all my other trees, I'm positioning them in the back of the lot, sort of like a fruit tree orchard. Getting the additional plants that were originally outside of the sheltered area into the sheltered area will make it a lot easier to up the quality of those plants very easily and get some additional money from the whole situation. Now I've readjusted the roof. It is a little bit more low-lying, but you can tell when both of the roofs, all the walls are up for both of the structures, it doesn't look really pretty all together, but we're not looking for pretty, we're looking for functional. And then here's my selling table. As you can see, I left a little spot for Angel to stand behind the table, but I also wanted to leave a couple of tiles in front of the table so that Sims that are trying to patronize our selling table, our yard sale, can stay a little longer as well. You'll now notice that I'm using some terrain paint. It looked a little stark because all of the grass was so green. To have it sort of believable this is a functioning farm garden area. So use some terrain paint to not only paint around where the plants are, but also to sort of hint at paths that humans would have worn down the grass. So there is some dirt underneath Angel's feet at the selling table. There is bare grass where customers would be standing. And then there's a little bit of a path from the front of the house to where the selling table is, where the garden is. I'm also taking these little like soil plots and I'm getting a couple more. And then I also wanted to buy a chicken coop because Angel is an animal enthusiast and he has been griping about not having any cute cuddly friends. Unfortunately, I guess bees do not count as having cute cuddly friends. He definitely gets attacked by them, so I guess they're not cuddly. But although we don't have enough money to buy a chicken outright, I just wanted to give Angel the goal of buying chickens and having a home for them. Applying a little bit more terrain paint around everything, the bee box, the planting plots, the tree orchard, and of course the chicken coop that we just bought. That is basically the layout of the outside of the house. I'm still going through and applying a little bit more terrain paint around the posts, floorboards, basically any place where the grass would have been touching something else and may not be doing as hot, to just blend it a little bit better. And I'm creating a couple more paths as well. One would think that you would also go out to either the tree orchard or the big oversized crops to garden first thing in the morning. Here's my 2 haystacks, just sort of like aesthetically placed around the chicken coop. And then I didn't want to keep my tent and my fire in inventory, so I just figured there'd be a spot to stick that in the back of the lot. Turning my attention back to the inside of the home. So we have the kitchen. I still needed to figure out a table. Still trying to make a fireplace happen, but it's not happening. And I figured I'd start off with something a little bit more simple, which is the fact that Angel and his wife-to-be need a bed to sleep in. And so I'm just selecting the bedroom and placing that in there. Really, the back room is the biggest, aside from the common area, but I really only had space to fit a double bed and 2 lights in there. Maybe at some point we can fit something else that's like off the ground, but it's really just a half tile perimeter on the right and left side of the bed and then a 1 tile perimeter at the top of the bed. So the room is really small. I don't really know that we can fit anything else in there. I'm turning my attention to the kitchen table. This is basically going to be where everyone hangs out because there is no living room. There is obviously no TV because we are off the grid and don't have electricity. But the most infuriating thing about kitchen tables and kitchen chairs is trying to match the woods, or at least trying to find woods that go together. I know I've settled on a couple of different options and then kept changing them. So that's basically where it ends up being. Now we're going to do sort of like a live mode tour of what this looks like in the season that it's in. It's a preview, but I had made Angel go to the lot, take a nap in his new bed, and then wake up and go to the mailbox. And when he woke up, it was snowing. So you can see this very picturesque snowy frosty day. It is a day in fall. I don't really know why it's snowing yet, but that's a problem for the Let's Play. So here is the outdoors. We'll start off with the sheltered gardening area. We have the table out in front, all of my rows of crops and produce, my little bee box in the back there. I wanted to have the bees be able to access not only my crops that they have been primarily focused on improving the quality of, but also the planting plots immediately behind the bee box that grows large size plants, and I wanted the bees to kind of do their work there as well. The rows of fruit trees in the back are not really, I don't think, going to get the benefit of the bees, but that's fine. It's really just because I want the ingredients for cherries and apples and pears and oh my. And honestly, it's going to probably be the smaller plants that make it to perfect quality for us that I'll be keeping around. Behind the rows of fruit trees, we have my old tent that is still around the lot. And then over to the left-hand side, we have the bonfire and then this chicken coop that has no resident chickens or roosters yet, but will eventually. And then my 2 stacks of hay. You can sit on them, but they're mostly just aesthetic at this point. We take a look at the porch where the woodworking table is. Maybe there will be some other items that I put out here, but for now, it's just the woodworking table and a rustic looking fence. And then as we go inside the home, we'll enter in through this front door and we'll find ourselves in the kitchen. There's one window that looks forward, a sink, stove, cabinet, 3 chairs and a table, and then the refrigerator in the corner. Moving down the hallway, it's particularly dark in this little area here. We'll enter into a very small bathroom that only has a single light, a toilet, and a off-the-grid shower. We'll exit this room, continue going down the hallway. There's like a little light fixture on the wall, and we'll enter into a very empty room that will eventually be the children's bedroom. You can see the view that the children have, but for now it's just an empty, very dark room. And then finally, the room in the back, Angel's bedroom, a double bed and 2 lights, and that's it. So that was a very quick tour of the first house that I am building for the Build Newcrest Legacy Challenge. Again, this house isn't going to stick around in this world forever. We're going to be building much more aesthetically pleasing houses for the permanent buildings that will stay in the neighborhood. This is just the house for now while we finish Generation 1, obtain our 8 perfect quality plants, start a family, etc. Alright kids, thank you so much for tuning into this speed build. The next part of my Build Newcrest Legacy Challenge will be coming out at the beginning of August, and spoiler, Angel will be getting married. So definitely stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching and joining. My YouTube channel is very fresh and new. Don't even like, don't thumbs up, don't comment. If you could just subscribe, that would be ever so helpful. If I can get to the 100 subscription mark, that means that I will have a non-gobbledygook YouTube link, because right now my YouTube link is youtube.com/channel/UCEX, which is really hard to say, and I'd really just like it to say Old Rotten Lady. So if you could subscribe and get me to the 100 subscription mark, that'd be very much appreciated. Thank you so much, children. Thanks for hanging out. Until next time, take care of yourselves.